Um, a long time ago, you guys, there was this. It was in the mountains, and there was this beautiful woods, a forest. This forest was, man, it was beautiful woods. It was one of the most beautiful woods here on Mother Earth. And when you come out of those woods, there was a river that came down, and it like flowed down this way towards the ocean. And on the other side of this river, it seemed kind of, there wasn't no that many trees. It was kind of like a, I don't know, like a, there wasn't a forest there. So on one side of this lake, this river, was a beautiful woods, and on this other side of the river, there was no trees. It was just regular. There were some mountains, and it was always overlooking the beautiful woods and the things that were going on there. This one time, there was a big storm that came rumbling through, and as the clouds grew bigger and bigger over the mountains, you could see it make its way down to the valley, overlooking this beautiful fire, this beautiful woods, this forest. It was so big. None of the animals that lived in the forest never seen such a storm that was coming. And as the storm grew bigger and bigger and bigger, lightning began to flash. It was lighting up the sky and everything around it. The rain came, and this big storm was coming. All the animals grew very afraid of this storm that had been coming. They began to run into their homes and hide, and the lightning grew bigger. The flashes grew bigger. It grew very, very. Everybody that was in the forest was very afraid. All the animals around were nervous, scared. And as the lightning grew bigger and bigger, one big bolt of lightning came down, and it struck the forest in the center. As this lightning bolt came down, it caused a fire that started from the middle of the forest, and then the trees started on fire. And then all the other trees around this beautiful forest started on fire. Soon the fire began to spread more and more and more, till the fire was so big you could see it for miles. The fires and the flames were all going up in the forest. All the animals that were in the forest gathered together, and they ran. And they ran as fast as they could away from the fire. They ran all the way till they came to this beautiful river that was there. And when they got to this river, all the animals jumped in there. All the animals of the forest. There was the bears and the wolves, and every animal you could think of jumped in there. And they all began to swim to the other side of the river where there was no trees. And they knew that if they got there, they would be safe until the fire had passed. As they all stood around the shore of this river, they were overlooking their beautiful forest going up in flames. There was so much fire. All the trees were being destroyed. All the animals were very sad. And as they looked upon the forest, all so engulfed in flames, their poor little hearts just sank. But they were kind of happy too at the same time, because looking around, they could see all the animals were safe. Everybody's families, everybody, all the animals, they were all safe. This little possum came wandering out, and it was really looking around. And this little possum kind of came crawling and went right in front of all the other animals. And he says, "Hey, somebody's missing here." And they all looked around, and they were trying to figure out which animal was gone. Who was not here? And the little possum said, Hummingbird is not here. And they looked. And sure enough, Hummingbird was nowhere to be found. And they were warning, and they began to yell out his name. Hummingbird! Hummingbird, are you safe? Where are you? Hummingbird! No response. And so as they looked upon everybody out there, they watched the forest being burned and everything like that. They began to look even harder. And from the fire, they saw Hummingbird come flying. And Hummingbird, when he came over the water, little Hummingbird shot down to the water and dove into the water and then jumped back out and flew back over to the fire, giving little droplets of water where he could. And he would fly back again and dive into the water, gathering a little water and jumping back out of the water and flying back over and dropping his little bits of water all over the place. Hummingbird kept doing this and kept doing this. And all of the different animals were looking out and they were saying, Hummingbird, what are you doing this for? You're going to wear yourself out. Come be on the safe side with us. We're okay. Hummingbird didn't listen. Not at all. He just kept flying out of the woods that was on fire, diving into the water, flying back up, going back over, and dropping his little droplets of water. Finally, after doing this for so long, little Hummingbird found himself getting tired. Found his little wings getting tired. And as he flew back over to the water, he went and flew down by the other animals on the side of the shore. He was exhausted, and he laid down, and he laid to the ground. And all the animals gathered around the Hummingbird, and they were asking him, and they were telling him, see, we told you, Hummingbird, you just wear yourself out for nothing. That's a big giant fire over there. You're just a little bitty Hummingbird. How do you expect all that little bit of water that you gave to that, put that on that fire, how do you expect that's going to help? And the little Hummingbird lifted his head with his little beak and he looked upon all the animals and he said, I know I am small, and I know that you are all bigger than me, but that does not give you or me the right to, or the excuse to not try to do something. I may be small and my little water droplets are there, he said, but at least I tried to save my forest. I tried to do something, even as small as I am. And as little Hummingbird told the story, the clouds came rolling in again. It was a big storm again, but this time there was no thunder. And this time it was a big healthy rain, and that rain came over that forest and put everything out. And the little Hummingbird said, you never know how the Creator's gonna take care of things. And what they wanted to share that story about the Hummingbird, guys, was that you know, all our little ones who are watching, and sometimes, you know, don't ever think that because you're small, you don't help, or you don't qualify. Oh, I'm just a little guy. They're not gonna let me do anything, or I'm just a little guy. I don't want anybody to ever think like that. Don't ever think that you're too small to get involved, too small to be as big as you want to be.